written a wonderful book that I haven't finished, I must confess, but I'm reading it in like this. It's just amazing, the stories that are in this book. It is called Shabbat in Chicago. An inspiring Latina woman shares her love with her community by David Montalvo. This is what it looks like. And I really would encourage each and every one of you to take a look at this book. Can we find it on Amazon?
Yes, yes.
We can, and let us tell us if there's any place else that we can find it. This book, and I'm not going to go into the details. Let me put my glasses on because I got my questions. David describes it as shares some of his childhood experiences living with a single mom. He acknowledges her struggles and ultimate faith. He strongly believes her faith kept her believing in humanity and caring for others. She always found a way to give what little she had to inspire others and to help them most in their time of need. And I just cannot wait to get into this book. It's so inspiring. It really is very, very well written. It's an easy read. And, you know, we like to hash things up. And I have all sorts of questions for you. You know, I got to work. So can you describe, just tell me about what inspired you to actually start writing?
Man, that's a great question. So let me take it back to when one of my friend Elliot. He's a very nice nice man. He always invites me to his house with his family, like almost every Friday night. And one day he invited me over for Shabbat. For those who don't know, the Sabbath is the time when Jewish people, they pray and eat, but it starts on Friday night till Saturday night. And we're just, vibing, having a good time. And he said, look, I met your mom. She seems so sweet. What a great storyteller. I think you should write down any story she shares with you in a journal so you can cherish and keep, hold on to it. So I thought, what if I just write a book about it instead of writing a journal? That would be the biggest surprise for my mom.
That's awesome to do this in honor of your mom. And I know those great storytellers in our families, right? Nobody better than mom. I love it. I love it. What inspired you to write a book about her heritage? One of the things I was very intrigued by was the fact that your mother is Latina and Jewish. And
Yep.
not that there's a mix of culture, it's a very wonderful multicultural world. Tell me a little bit about her background and some of the things that inspired her, if you could.
Yeah, so this is very interesting. So my mom, she's very, of course, she's Guatemalan, Latina, um, and her faith is very deep in the Jewish faith, right? So she's like a mesh with two worlds. Um, One thing that I got to say is that, what makes this book astonishing, right? Amazing, is that this is part of a new history because I'm not only writing a book, right, about my mom, but this piece represents Latino Jews that don't really have a voice in the media. So this book itself, it's already like, not to brag, but I happen to be the first Mexican Guatemalan Jew in history to write a nonfiction book in the U.S.,
That's
which is
awesome.
wild,
That is
you know?
absolutely awesome.
And I would say if anybody wants to know a little deeper about her upbringings and how did she kind of find God within life, I would say, read the chapter. I don't want to ruin it yet because then we will forget the popcorn, you know what I'm saying? And the cherries.
Yeah.
So I would say just wait a little bit. You're going to get to the good part. But yeah, that's a little bit about my mom.
Okay, that's awesome. How did your mother's heritage influence her approach to giving to her community? I mean, I know that I don't want to give it away because it's a good read. It's a good read. Um, Tell us a little bit about how she got to America. She came to Guatemala. I read that part of the story. I was just like, wow. Um, I know that in the story you tell us how she came to America and when she got here, what she did. Um, I I had some really good questions and I wrote them down. Don't get me wrong, but I get other stuff going in my mind. So I'm going to ask you again, how did your mother's heritage influence her approach to giving back to her community? Because that's what it was all about for her.
So yeah, like one of the biggest things my mom did, which was so beautiful, I think it comes down to her grandma. My grandma has this thing of giving, you know, feeding the people in her neighborhood that were very poor. She had that big heart. So when my mom came to Chicago, right, one thing that I wrote down in one of the chapters is called like 100. I think it's called 100 Shabbat 100, something like that, where my mom actually hosted 100 people over for Shabbat dinner, and it was so beautiful because we had people all walks of life, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, atheist, and we all broke bread together. And my mom knew a way how to connect with people. I feel like her reasoning for this is to show the world that not all Jewish people are bad. If you show them one little good, you know, a tradition, it will break a stereotype that most people think, you know. So I think that was her thing, is what can I do to bring light to the world?
That's awesome. You hear people in the news and they doing all these big things, but in the neighborhoods is where it's really happening, where family digs in, and we may not have much, but we always share, you know. And your mom was the epitome of that. And that chapter you were talking about is 100 people for Shabbat. I read that. That was good. I was just really intrigued and inspired by her love for her community and the things that she's doing and continues to do. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Were there specific stories or experiences of your mother's that stood out to you, particularly when you were writing, other than the 100 Shabbat, for Shabbat? If you don't understand what Shabbat is, that means Sabbath in the Hebrew language, yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I know there were some terms. I'm like, ooh, I might have to ask for some pronunciation help. There's some amazing
Oh
things that your
man.
mom went through. So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so my mom, I think a story that it's very powerful, I had to add in the book, was when one of my brothers, he was like my brother that my mom took in, and his Isa brother passed away, and my mom actually set up kind of like a fundraiser where she got connected with this big Guatemalan restaurant and in Belmont, and she was able to raise enough money, you know, with using her voice, engaging with the crowd, doing like a ticket raffle, and raised enough money so that the family can bury the brother of Isa, which is beautiful because, you know, paying for a funeral is not cheap. You know, people think it's easy, it's not. And for my mom to do that for someone that's not family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to show, and my mom, I love the words I put in there. My mom never said, "Oh, I can't." She'll say, "Let me see what I can
That's
do."
it.
You know, I think that's a better answer.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up. Let me see what I can do. If you're going to give, and it all throughout the book, you can feel it in her personality and the way she chose to raise you all and the way that you told this story. That's what she did. She's a giver. And then God is going to has blessed so many people through your mother. That's amazing to hear. And I just, like I said, I haven't read all of it, but I've read some, pull some stuff out. It's a great story. I'm excited to continue to read it. Um, how do you think your story is going to impact not only the multicultural community, but other communities as well? I know we can't know
I
these things,
think,
so what do you think?
yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think right now this book is what needs to be heard right now. I'm gonna tell you a little story. So I went to Vegas during the Super Bowl. A lot of celebrities came in, and I met one of the biggest billionaires, YouTubers, who's been in the industry longer than most YouTubers.
Sure.
He's a young guy, and his name was FaZe Rug, you know, and everybody knows him from YouTube. And it's funny because everybody was in a circle at that moment, telling him, "Dude, I love your videos. You know, because of you, I got into YouTube." Very like
Mm-hmm.
simple answers for to tell a celebrity, I would say. But what I did to stand out, I actually had like a full 20, 30 minutes conversation with him. I told him the whole story about my book, who I am. And what he said to me was, your story, and he's Middle Eastern, by the way. He's a Christian, a brother from the his family's from the Middle East. And he said something so powerful. He said, your story right now is what we need to bring people together. What's going on with the Middle East? He said, because the way your mom did for those dinners and embracing people and accepting people to come together, that's the story we need. And I love that because he will never forget that. And I feel like more people need to hear it.
That's awesome. I do agree. I think there are more stories that we have in common than we have in differences. And of course, we have a really interesting political climate happening right now. Um, in what ways do you think your mom's background, um, her Guatemalan heritage and her Jewish heritage, um, can well, let me rephrase that story that you told us about you presenting the book to your mother. Can you share that? I think that's a great
Oh,
story.
it's a beautiful, yeah, this is one of my favorites. So it was the week of my birthday, and I'm having a little birthday celebration. My family's there, and they know I wrote the book. My mom has no idea. I come in with Dolly, who is the publisher, right? And we put in like a birthday bag, and I said, Mom, I've been waiting for a long time to give you this. And we pull out the book. And I said, Mom, this is the first copy. It's yours. You know, my mom with so much tears and joy. You could tell she was excited. She supported. Most importantly, she was proud of her son for completing his goal, right? She gave me a hug. It was one of the most powerful moments. My mom cried, Dolly cried. I got,
Yeah.
emotional. There was a lot of things happening.
Awesome.
And I, right. And I want to say too, with that, all that happening, something that stood out was that my rabbi always said that the greatest gift a child can give to their parents is writing a book about them. Basically, you can pass it on to your generation, the next generation. It's a part of history. It's a part of your roots. Like one thing I want to do is that when I have dinner, right, on Shabbat every Friday, and I got a lot of kids. Let's just pretend I got 7 kids. I got. I'm gonna read a chapter of the book every week so that my kids can kind of build this foundation and see how great grandma was. They're like, wow, I wish I could meet her. Something like that, like
That's what's
to really,
beautiful.
you know.
Yes. Wow. I think that's amazing that, first of all, the gift of your writing that you gave to your mom and the background that your mom provided you with, just to see how she's poured not only into the community, but into you. What do you think, besides your mom, were some of your strongest influences growing up?
My rabbi.
Okay.
I mentioned my rabbi a lot of times. There's a moment where in the chapter of the book, I talk about so I tell the rabbi, I said, how can I'm very big into scripture where it says, honor your parents so you can live a long life.
Mhm.
I told my rabbi, how can I honor my father if he doesn't want me in his
Mm.
life? And the rabbi says, uh, I don't know how to put this, but I'm going to put it in a nice, simple way. He doesn't want you in his life. He told me straight up. He chose a new family. He got new kids. You have to leave him living his life. By you accepting that, you are honoring your father. He goes, your mom is the main person you should focus on because she raised you your whole life. She will always be there. So she's the one that is your parent. And you just have to accept your father, like one thing I could say, about my father is that all the things that he did when I was growing up, up that wasn't right, I'm actually grateful because now I know what not to do with my kids. And this is a lesson I can't learn from books. This is something that I learned in life. And if I had to come back again in another lifetime, I will pick the same parents, my mom and my dad.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We need to take a break for about 2 minutes. We will come back. That's amazing. Congratulations to you on this book. I'm telling you, it's wonderful. This isn't your first book though, is it?
This actually
Really?
my first. Yeah,
Why
yeah.
did I
So
think you had more than one story?
I came here a few times, a couple lifetimes. I'm back, I
Okay,
made a couple turns. I made a couple turns, but
sure. Okay.
my
Well,
boy.
again, congratulations on your first book. I think it's amazing. You guys take a look at this again. It is called Shabbat in Chicago. And let me put my glasses back on because I can't see the fine print. An inspiring Latina woman shares her love with the community. And I really do love the fact that you told this story from your mom's perspective, or your perspective about your mother. It's a wonderful tribute to her and a wonderful tribute to your community and your culture. Talk to me a little bit more about growing up a Jewish Latino person.
So I'm gonna be honest. When I went to high
Mhm.
school, I actually got
Oh,
bullied. Yeah, I went to a predominantly like Hispanic
okay.
school. A lot of the Hispanics didn't accept me. It was a very hard time. I actually mentioned in the book too, because people right away, when they think Jewish, they think European, or they think the Holocaust, but they don't really think Hispanic. They don't
I
really
have to
think. um,
You're right. This was a surprise to me. I'm like, wow, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah. So it was very hard to explain to people like growing up, like this is who I am. This is
Yeah.
part of me. And I remember when I was getting bullied, I remember this girl, she was very popular, very pretty. Um, she told everybody in class, she was like, "Hey guys, look at Dave. He's trying to be Jewish." And I remember my teacher, Miss Feldman, she stepped in, and she was my math teacher too at that time. She said, you know, guys, actually my best friend happens to be Mexican and she's Jewish too. Just to hear her stand up for
Mm,
me, I felt like I wasn't alone. And she pulled me to the side and she said, "Look, we have to stand up for each other. You're not alone." And I felt like, I went through a lot of stuff that a lot of people may never experience or may have experienced, but it was a very tough time where, I had to, push it through it. I had to be myself and just continue, even through the persecution, the discrimination, because I'm facing both worlds. In the Latino community, they felt like I betrayed them because I wasn't Catholic.
okay.
I wasn't, part of any Christianity.
Hmm.
In Judaism, I talk about how, you know, when I went to the synagogue for the first time, it was an Orthodox synagogue. I wasn't. So the rule is in
Hmm.
Judaism, in order to start service, you have to have a quorum of 10 men. We call it Hebrew minyan. You have a minyan that's 10 people. We can start prayer. When I arrived there, I wasn't counted as the 10th person, even though I am the 10th person in the
Sure.
synagogue. It took a minute for them to finally accept me, that I can be fully embraced and counted as part of the minion. So that's what I mean. Like, these are the things that many people have to understand. Being brown, you know, we face not only in America, but
Yeah.
anywhere. It could be,
Hmm.
so that's just something very personal I shared in
Sure.
the book.
And I appreciate that. I understand bullying too, because I cannot stand bullying. That's one thing as a teacher. I came up when I moved from California. Well, my mother's from here. We left here when I was 2 years old, was pretty much raised in California, came back in the fifth grade, was bullied the entire fifth grade. because I spoke very clear and articulate English. They said I talk white. I'm like, how do you do that? I'm just talking like I talk in my house, you know. But you learn how to deal with that. You have to say that, just like you have to push through bullying. And I'm so proud of you for doing that, because this has brought this book to life. It really has. And I thank you for your voice, and for bringing this information to us, and for being here with me and sharing your heritage and sharing just, I never thought of a Latino Jew. And I hope I don't offend you when I say I just never, I never heard of it. Multicultural, when you think multicultural, you think African American or white, or Latino and black, and or whatever, different cultures, but you don't think cultural religion and faith. And although every single faith is actually multicultural, because I'm African American and I'm Baptist and I'm a Christian and I believe in the Word of God and that sort of thing, but I think there's other heritages and just cultural references that we can draw from, especially being African American. My heritage, I believe we traced our heritage back to back from France to, I want to say, one of the Central African countries. And we all didn't start out as Christians. We didn't. Christianity spread throughout the world, so we're all multicultural in that respect, if we think about it. So, but I just really appreciate you explaining those things to me. What do you hope your readers will take away from your book about the importance of your cultural heritage in your community? And again, specifically to what it is that your mom did and how it's affecting you. What do you think you want your readers to do, to take away?
So I want to actually share something before I answer that question, which you said earlier. So one of my biggest look at today, right? For the first time in history, Mexico has the first women president. Not only that, she's Jewish.
Wow.
That is huge. That's big.
Huge. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, never in a million years I ever thought we would have someone that represents, Jews of color, someone that's different. And not only that, if I have to take it back, I mentioned the book, this famous rabbi who was during the Crusades. His name is Rambam. This man had great relationships with Muslims. And it was amazing because, not only was he a rabbi, he was a doctor. He changed the way we see medicine, hospitals, schools. If you ask any Jewish person today, Orthodox or not Orthodox, and you ask them who are your top 3 rabbis, Rambam would actually be one of their top 3 or top 5. And he is someone that, he went through a lot, very similar, I feel like, connected to where many, when he started coming out with different commentaries for, the Talmud, with the Holy Scriptures, it wasn't accepted right away. It took time for people to finally accept it. There was a lot of controversy. And I feel like that's with anybody who's trying to bring new ideas, new philosophy. But through the trials and tribulations, he was able to be well known, to be, fully embraced. And he is one of my people that I look up to, because not only that he was born in Spain, and he's a Latino Jew, spoke Spanish. He write a lot of his books were in Arabic, Spanish, and Hebrew. That tells you a lot, that he was very trilingual. He was very brilliant, and so his writings today, you can still read. What I want my readers to leave is to, don't be afraid to ask questions. Get to know your fellow friend, your fellow neighbor, and before we judge anyone, just see how they live their life.